The sun was setting as Lisa Park pulled into the parking lot of Lux Motors, its glass building reflecting orange and gold light. She'd driven past this place at least 100 times on her way to work, always slowing down a bit to look at the shiny cars lined up like jewels. Today was different. Today, she wasn't just looking. After 2 years of saving every extra penny from her paycheck, she finally had enough for a down payment on the silver sedan that had caught her eye months ago. Lisa checked her appearance in the rearview mirror and tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. She wasn't dressed fancy, just wearing the same comfortable jeans and light blue sweater she'd had on all day while helping at the community center. There was a small coffee stain near the sleeve that she hadn't noticed until now. She considered going home to change, but decided against it. It was already late, and the dealership would close in an hour. "It's about the car, not about me," she told herself, grabbing her warm leather purse that contained her carefully organized financial documents. She had researched for months and knew exactly what she wanted and how much she could afford. The moment Lisa pushed through the glass doors, she felt it, the subtle shift in the atmosphere. 2 salesmen glanced her way, then quickly returned to their conversation without approaching. A woman at the front desk looked up, then down again at her computer. Lisa stood awkwardly for a moment before walking toward a suited man who seemed to be helping another customer. "Excuse me," she said politely when there was a pause in their conversation. "I was hoping to test drive the 2024 Avalon sedan you have on display." The man, whose name tag read Doug Thompson, turned with a practiced smile that faded slightly as he took in her casual appearance. "That model?" he asked, pointing through the window at the gleaming silver car that had been Lisa's dream for months. "That's our premium line." Lisa nodded eagerly. "Yes, I've been saving for it. I've done my research, and I'm ready to talk numbers if the test drive goes well." Doug's eyebrows rose slightly. He exchanged a quick look with another salesman, who smirked. "Have you purchased from us before?" "No," Lisa replied, feeling increasingly uncomfortable but determined to stand her ground. "But I have all my financing ready. I just need to see how it drives first." Doug let out a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Look, miss, that car starts at $45,000. Perhaps something in our used section would be more appropriate for your budget." Lisa felt her cheeks grow warm. "I'm aware of the price. As I said, I've been saving for this specific model. I have excellent credit and—" "We're actually quite busy today," Doug interrupted, gesturing vaguely around the showroom where only 2 other customers browsed. "These aren't for just anyone to take joy rides in. We need to prioritize serious buyers." Lisa pulled out her bank statements. "I am a serious buyer. Look, I can show you." Doug held up his hand, cutting her off. "Ma'am, please, this is becoming disruptive." He motioned to a large man in a security uniform who had been standing near the entrance. "Richard, could you please assist this lady? I think she's lost." The security guard approached with a neutral expression. "Everything okay here?" "This woman needs to be escorted out," Doug said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "She's disturbing our actual customers." Several people turned to stare. A couple browsing nearby whispered to each other. Lisa felt as if the floor had dropped from beneath her feet, her dream car suddenly miles away instead of just outside the window. "I don't understand," she said quietly, clutching her purse tighter. "I just wanted to test drive a car I can afford." "Ma'am," the security guard said, not unkindly but firmly, "I need you to come with me, please." Lisa looked around at the judging eyes. A young salesman looked uncomfortable but said nothing. The woman at the front desk pretended to be busy with papers. No one spoke up. With dignity she didn't feel, Lisa straightened her shoulders and followed the guard toward the exit. "This isn't right," she said softly. "Just doing my job," the guard replied with a hint of apology in his voice. As the glass doors closed behind her, Lisa stood in the parking lot, humiliation washing over her in waves. She took a deep breath of the cool evening air, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. What they didn't know, what no one there could possibly guess, was who she was married to, and what this small moment of cruelty would set in motion. Lisa slipped into her modest Honda, started the engine, and pulled out her phone. Her husband would be calling for their nightly chat soon. and for the first time in their marriage, she was going to ask him for something that had nothing to do with kindness. Lisa parked a Honda in the driveway of her modest two-story home. The house wasn't huge or fancy, just a comfortable place on a quiet street where neighbors knew each other by name. Most people wouldn't guess that the woman who lived here was married to one of the richest men in the country. Inside, she kicked off her shoes and dropped her purse on the kitchen counter. The clock on the microwave showed 7:45 p.m. Her husband would call in 15 minutes, just like he did every night. Lisa made herself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, still feeling the sting of humiliation from the car dealership. Her phone rang at exactly 8:00 p.m. Robert's picture lit up the screen. A candid shot she'd taken of him laughing by a lake during their last vacation together before his work had taken him overseas for this extended business trip. "Hey you," she answered, trying to sound normal. "There's my favorite person." Robert's warm voice came through, instantly making her feel better. "How was your day?" Lisa stirred her tea, debating whether to mention what happened. They had always been honest with each other. It was the foundation of their 15-year marriage. Even with him building his tech company from nothing to an empire, they never kept secrets. "Actually, something kind of upsetting happened today," she began, then told him about her experience at Lux Motors, the dismissive looks, the assumptions, the public embarrassment. As she spoke, she could hear Robert's breathing change slightly on the other end of the line. Anyone else might not have noticed, but she knew her husband. That slight pause between breaths meant he was angry, really angry, but controlling it. "They did what?" he asked, his voice deadly quiet when she finished. "It's not a big deal, really," Lisa backpedaled, suddenly regretting bringing it up. "I can try another dealership." "Not a big deal," Robert repeated. "They humiliated my wife. The woman who stood by me when I was working out of a garage with nothing but an idea and student loan debt. The woman who packed my lunches and worked double shifts so I could build my first prototype." Lisa smiled slightly at the memory. Those were actually good times, weren't they? Ramen noodles for dinner and big dreams. "The best," Robert agreed, his voice softening momentarily before hardening again. "What was the name of this place again?" "Lux Motors. But honestly, let's just forget about it. I don't want you to do anything, you know." "What?" Robert asked innocently. "I'm just asking the name of a business." Lisa knew that tone. "Robert Chen, I know you. You're plotting something." "I'm coming home," he said suddenly. "What?" "But your meetings." "Can wait. We've almost finalized the acquisition anyway. The lawyers can handle the rest." Lisa sat up straighter. "You're in Singapore. You can't just drop everything and fly home because some car salesman was rude to me." "Watch me," Robert said, and she could hear the smile in his voice, not the warm one he saved for her, but the sharp one that his business competitors had learned to fear. "Robert." "Lisa, do you know what I was doing right before I called you?" "I was sitting in a meeting with 7 men in suits who kept looking at their watches, wondering when they could leave. They're waiting for me to sign papers that will make them millions of dollars. And you know what? They're still waiting because when it was 8:00 p.m. your time, I stood up and left to call my wife. Because nothing, not money, not business, not anything, is more important to me than you." Lisa felt tears welling in her eyes. This was why she loved him. For all his success and power, he never forgot what mattered. "Now," Robert continued, his voice shifting to what Lisa called his CEO voice, "I need to make a few calls. My assistant will book me on the next flight. I should be home tomorrow evening. You really don't have to." "I want to," he said firmly. "And Lisa, what kind of car were you looking at anyway?" "The silver Avalon sedan," she answered, confused by the sudden change in topic. Was all Robert said. "I love you. Get some rest. I'll text you my flight details." After they hung up, Lisa sat with her cooling tea, wondering what her husband was planning. In 15 years of marriage, she had never asked him to use his power or money to fight her battles. But as she remembered the smirking face of Doug Thompson, she found herself not exactly opposed to the idea. Across the world, Robert Chen was already making calls, his voice never raising above a conversational tone, but leaving no doubt about his intentions. By morning, several things would be in motion that would make the staff at Lux Motors deeply regret their actions. Robert Chen hung up the phone after talking to Lisa and sat motionless for a moment. The luxury hotel suite in Singapore was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Outside his window, the city glowed with thousands of lights against the night sky, but he barely noticed the view. He picked up his phone again and dialed a familiar number. It rang twice. "It's nearly 9 a.m. here, which means it's 8 p.m. there." "This better be important," came the gravelly voice of Tom Wilson, Robert's head of security and right-hand man for the past decade. "I'm coming home," Robert said simply. "I need arrangements." There was a pause. Tom knew his boss well enough to understand that something significant had happened. Everything okay with Lisa? Someone disrespected her today. Badly. Robert's voice remained calm, but Tom could hear the steel beneath the words. "I see," Tom replied. No further explanation was needed. "When are you thinking?" "Next available flight. And I want the Phantom brought to the airfield. Have it detailed and ready when I land." Tom whistled low. "The Phantom? You haven't used that car since the governor's dinner last year." "I'm making a point," Robert said. "Also, I need you to find out everything you can about Lux Motors. Ownership structure, financial status, recent sales records, employee information." "The car dealership on Westbrook Avenue?" Tom asked, already typing notes. "Interesting. Anything specific you're looking for?" "Everything. And I want particular information on their sales manager. First name Doug, last name likely Thompson." "Consider it done. How deep do you want me to go?" Robert thought for a moment. "Deep enough that I know things his mother might have forgotten." "And Tom? I want to know if there's a parent company." "You thinking acquisition?" Tom asked, understanding immediately where this was headed. "I'm thinking consequences," Robert replied. "But yes, find out if they're publicly traded or privately owned, and what it would take to become a major stakeholder." "On it, boss. Anything else?" "Yes," Robert's voice softened slightly. "Have flowers delivered to Lisa tomorrow morning. Her favorites. Sunflowers and white lilies," Tom finished for him. "Got it. And a message. Just, I'm on my way home. Love, R." After hanging up, Robert made 3 more calls. First to his assistant, Anita, to clear his schedule and make flight arrangements. Next to his legal team to prepare some paperwork. The final call was to Wei Zhang, his company's CFO. "Why?" "I need liquid assets ready to move quickly, possibly tomorrow." Wei didn't sound surprised. As the financial officer for Chen Innovations, he was accustomed to Robert's occasional impulse decisions, which, despite their suddenness, usually proved profitable. "How much are we talking?" Wei asked. "Potentially several million. I'll know more in a few hours." "Acquisition target?" "A small fish," Robert replied, "but one that needs a lesson in manners." Wei chuckled. "Someone crossed Lisa, didn't they?" Robert's silence was answer enough. "I'll have the funds ready," Wei said. "Just send the details when you have them." Within an hour, Robert was packed and on his way to the airport. His phone buzzed with a message from Tom. "Preliminary research complete. Lux Motors is owned by Prestige Auto Group, 51% privately held by the Norwood family, 49% publicly traded. Stock currently at $37.22 per share. Sending full report to your secure email." Robert smiled for the first time since his call with Lisa. The Norwood family had tried to partner with him last year on an electric vehicle venture. He had declined, finding their business practices questionable. Now that connection would make this even more interesting. As his driver navigated through Singapore's late-night traffic, Robert opened his laptop and began reading Tom's report. He learned that Doug Thompson had been with Lux Motors for 8 years, rising from junior salesman to floor manager through aggressive sales tactics that sometimes skirted ethical boundaries. There were 3 complaints filed against him in the past year alone, all from women customers who felt they had been talked down to or ignored. Robert's jaw tightened. The flight home would take nearly 17 hours. By the time he landed, he planned to own enough of Prestige Auto Group to make significant changes, starting with one particular dealership. Meanwhile, across the world, Lisa slept peacefully, unaware of the wheels her husband had set in motion. Tomorrow would bring a delivery of her favorite flowers, followed by a storm that would change Lux Motors forever. In a moment, Robert interrupted smoothly. "First, my wife would like to speak with the sales manager who assisted her yesterday." His eyes scanned the room. "A Mr. Thompson, I believe." All eyes turned to Doug, who stood frozen in place, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. In that moment, he understood with perfect clarity just how badly he had misjudged the situation and the woman yesterday. And judging by the look in Robert Chen's eyes, he was about to find out exactly what that mistake would cost him. The showroom felt like it was holding its breath. Doug Thompson stood rooted to the spot, his expensive leather shoes suddenly feeling too tight. Every eye in the place bounced between him and the couple who had just walked in, especially the woman he had humiliated just yesterday. "Mr. Thompson," Robert Chen said, his voice surprisingly soft yet carrying across the silent room. "My wife tells me you helped her yesterday." The way he said "helped" made several salespeople wince. Doug stepped forward on legs that felt like jelly. "Mr. Chen, there seems to have been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Robert cut him off smoothly. "My wife came here to test drive a car. You decided she wasn't worth your time based on how she was dressed. Those are the facts, correct?" Frank Norwood jumped in. "Mr. Chen, I assure you this isn't how we usually conduct business. If there was an incident, I personally—" "I'm speaking to Mr. Thompson," Robert said, his tone still pleasant but brooking no interruption. "Doug, I believe I asked you a question." Doug loosened his collar with one finger. The showroom suddenly felt 20 degrees hotter. "Sir, your wife came in wearing very casual clothes. We get a lot of people who just want to sit in expensive cars with no intention to buy. I was simply judging a book by its cover." Lisa spoke for the first time. Her voice wasn't angry or triumphant, just calm and clear. "Would it have made a difference if I'd been wearing designer clothes? Or if I'd arrived in an expensive car instead of my Honda? Well, customers who can afford our vehicles usually look a certain way," Doug stammered. A murmur ran through the watching crowd. Even to his own ears, his explanation sounded pathetic. "And how should someone who can afford your cars look, exactly?" Lisa asked. She gestured down at her simple outfit. "Should I have worn diamonds to buy a sedan? Should I have mentioned my husband's name to be treated with basic respect?" One of the younger saleswomen in the back nodded slightly, earning a glare from Frank. Doug looked desperately to his boss for rescue, but Frank was busy mentally calculating how much business they might lose if word got out that they'd mistreated the wife of Robert Chen. "I apologize," Doug finally said, the words sticking in his throat. "I made assumptions based on your appearance. It was unprofessional and wrong." Robert nodded slightly. Indeed it was. He turned to address the entire staff now. "Yesterday, my wife was thrown out of this dealership for not looking wealthy enough. She wasn't asking for special treatment, just the chance to test drive a car she'd spent 2 years saving for with her own money." Lisa touched his arm gently. "Robert, they understand. Let's not make a bigger scene." The tenderness with which Robert looked at his wife made several people shift uncomfortably, as if witnessing something private. "You're right, as always," he said to her before turning back to Doug. "My wife is compassionate. She believes in second chances. I'm not quite as forgiving, but I respect her wishes." He reached inside his jacket, and for one wild moment, Doug thought he might pull out a weapon. Instead, Robert extracted a business card and handed it to him. "Call this number tomorrow morning. You'll be speaking with the director of our foundation's workplace training program. They specialize in helping businesses implement better customer service practices." Doug took the card with trembling fingers. "Because," Robert continued, loud enough for everyone to hear, "as of 9 o'clock this morning, I acquired a controlling interest in Prestige Auto Group, your parent company, which means I'm effectively your new boss." The silence in the room deepened, if that was possible. Frank Norwood swayed slightly on his feet. "Now," Robert said, his tone lighter, "I believe my wife was interested in test driving the silver Avalon sedan. Is it still available?" Yes, of course," Doug stuttered. "I'll get the keys immediately." "No need," Robert replied. "I'm sure one of your colleagues can assist us." He looked around the showroom. Perhaps someone who understands that respect isn't determined by the price of someone's clothes. A young salesman stepped forward hesitantly. "I'd be happy to help, sir, ma'am." "Thank you," Lisa said with a genuine smile. As she and the salesman walked toward the display area, she paused and turned back to Doug. I hope the training program helps. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, both customers and employees. It was such a simple statement, delivered without malice, that made Doug's shame feel even deeper. Robert stayed behind, now speaking quietly to Frank Norwood about necessary changes to the company culture. The other salespeople drifted back to their desks, occasionally stealing glances at the billionaire in their midst and the ordinary-looking woman who was his wife. As Doug retreated to his office on unsteady legs, he noticed a framed motto on the wall he'd seen every day but never really read. Treat every customer like they're the most important person in the world. For the first time, he understood what those words actually meant. The young salesman Peter walked Lisa through the features of the silver Avalon sedan while Robert continued his conversation with Frank Norwood in the manager's office. The other employees pretended to work, but their attention kept drifting to this unexpected drama unfolding in their workplace. And this model comes with a premium sound system, Peter explained, his initial nervousness fading as he spoke about the car's features. The speakers are designed by audio engineers who work with professional musicians. Lisa nodded, running her hand along the leather seat. It's beautiful. I've been researching this model for months. You really know your cars, Peter said, sounding genuinely impressed. Most customers don't even know what questions to ask. I like to be informed, Lisa replied with a smile. Especially for big purchases. As they talked, Doug Thompson sat at his desk, visible through the glass walls of his office. He stared at the business card Robert Chen had given him, turning it over and over in his fingers. His career, possibly his entire future, now hung in the balance because of one bad judgment call. Meanwhile, in the owner's office, Robert had laid out his vision for changes at Lux Motors. Frank Norwood was nodding so vigorously he resembled a bobblehead doll. So we're agreed, Robert concluded, sliding a folder across the desk. These new policies will be implemented immediately. Frank skimmed the document, his eyes widening at certain points. A mandatory 2-day training for all sales staff on respectful customer service. Anonymous test customers to ensure compliance. A new commission structure that rewards customer satisfaction over sales numbers. He looked up. This is quite revolutionary, Mr. Chen. It's basic human decency packaged as business policy, Robert corrected him. And please call me Robert. Frank signed the last page with a flourish. Of course, of course. I must say, I never expected Lux Motors to become part of Chen Innovations. It hasn't, Robert said. My company focuses on medical technology, not cars. This is a personal investment. He stood up, buttoning his jacket. Now I believe my wife is waiting. Out in the showroom, Lisa had just finished her test drive with Peter. Her face was bright with excitement as she stepped out of the car. It drives even better than I expected, she told him. The handling is so smooth. So, will you be taking it home today? Peter asked. Before Lisa could answer, Robert joined them. How was it? He asked his wife. Perfect, she replied. But, we'll take it, Robert said to Peter. Actually, Lisa interrupted, touching her husband's arm. I don't want it. Both men looked at her in surprise. But you loved it during the test drive, Peter said, confused. I did, Lisa agreed. It's a wonderful car. But I think I need to keep looking. She glanced around the showroom, where everyone was still watching them. Sometimes the journey to finding the right thing is as important as the thing itself. Robert studied his wife's face, then nodded slowly. Of course, your decision. They walked toward the exit, followed by Frank, who was still thanking Robert profusely for his generous input into our business practices. As they passed Doug's office, Lisa paused. May I have a moment? She asked Robert, who nodded and continued toward the door with Frank. Lisa knocked on the glass door. Doug jumped slightly, then stood up hastily. Mrs. Chen, please come in. She entered but remained standing. I wanted to say something before we left. Doug braced himself. What happened yesterday wasn't just about me, Lisa said. I've been thinking about how many other people might have been treated the same way, people who didn't have a billionaire husband to make things right. Doug's face flushed. I understand, and I'm truly sorry. I believe you, Lisa said simply. That's why I hope you'll take the training opportunity seriously. Not because my husband owns the company now, but because every person who walks through that door deserves respect, regardless of what they're wearing or driving. Doug nodded, unable to meet her eyes. Second chances are rare in life, Lisa continued. Use yours well. She turned to leave, then added, and by the way, I really was planning to buy that car yesterday. I've been saving from my foundation salary for 2 years. As she walked away, Doug sank back into his chair, the full impact of his mistake washing over him anew. Outside, Lisa rejoined Robert, slipping her hand into his as they walked to the waiting Rolls-Royce. You didn't want the car? Robert asked quietly. Lisa shook her head. I'll find another one. At a dealership that's earned my business. Robert smiled and squeezed her hand. That's why I love you. You always see the bigger picture. As their car pulled away, the employees of Lux Motors watched through the windows, knowing that tomorrow would bring the beginning of major changes, not just to their policies, but to the entire way they did business. 3 months had passed since the day Robert and Lisa Chen had walked into Lux Motors and changed everything. The dealership looked the same from the outside, same gleaming cars in the windows, same bright logo above the entrance, but inside, almost nothing was the same. On a sunny Tuesday morning, Doug Thompson stood in front of a group of new hires, pointing to a large framed photo on the wall. The picture showed a smiling woman in jeans and a simple sweater standing next to a silver sedan. This is our reminder, he told them. Every person who walks through those doors deserves the same respect, the same attention, the same service. It doesn't matter what they're wearing or what car they drove up in. The new employees nodded, some taking notes. They'd all heard rumors about the incident that had transformed Lux Motors from just another luxury car dealership into something different. We've become the top-rated dealership in customer satisfaction in the entire state, Doug continued, a hint of pride in his voice. Not because we sell the most cars or the most expensive ones, but because we treat people right. After the group dispersed for their individual training sessions, Doug returned to his office, now smaller than before, since part of the renovation had turned the former manager's office into a comfortable customer lounge. He sat down to review the latest customer feedback when his phone rang. Doug Thompson, he answered. Mr. Thompson, this is Tom Wilson, Mrs. Chen's assistant. She's wondering if you're available for a meeting this afternoon at the foundation. Doug checked his calendar quickly. Yes, I can make that work. Is this about the community transport program? Yes. Mrs. Chen has some new ideas she wants to discuss. After hanging up, Doug reflected on how much his life had changed. The training program Robert Chen had insisted on hadn't been the punishment Doug expected. Instead, it had been an eye-opening experience that made him reconsider how he viewed and treated people. To everyone's surprise, especially his own, Doug had embraced the changes and eventually became their biggest advocate. Across town, Lisa sat in her modest office at the Chen Foundation, reviewing applications for their newest initiative, a program providing reliable transportation to job interviews for people in need. The idea had come from her experience at the dealership, making something positive out of that negative encounter. Her assistant knocked on the door. Your husband is on line 1. Lisa picked up the phone. Hey you. Hey yourself, Robert replied, his voice warm even through the phone. How's the program coming along? Really well. We've got 15 dealerships signed up now, including Lux. They're each donating a car and maintenance services. Robert chuckled. Doug Thompson, leading a community service initiative. Still hard to believe. People can surprise you when given the chance, Lisa said. Speaking of which, are you still coming home tonight? Or is Singapore calling you back already? I'll be home for dinner, Robert promised. The acquisition is finally complete. No more overseas trips for at least a month. I'll believe that when I see it, Lisa teased. After they hung up, Lisa gathered her notes for the upcoming meeting. As she walked through the foundation offices, staff members greeted her warmly. None of them treated her differently after learning she was married to one of the richest men in the country. Here, she was just Lisa, respected for her work, her ideas, and her compassion. Later that afternoon, Lisa sat across from Doug Thompson in the foundation's conference room. The awkwardness of their early meetings had faded over time, replaced by a professional relationship based on mutual respect. We've identified 20 candidates for the first round, Lisa explained, sliding folders across the table. People who have job offers or interviews but no reliable way to get there. Doug nodded, reviewing the information. We can provide cars for the interviews, and for those who secure jobs, we can work out affordable payment plans. Exactly, Lisa agreed. Transportation shouldn't be the thing that keeps someone from improving their life. As they continued discussing details, Lisa couldn't help but reflect on the strange journey that had brought them here. One moment of disrespect had triggered a chain of events that now had the potential to help hundreds of people. That evening, as Lisa and Robert sat on their back porch watching the sunset, she told him about the meeting. You know what Doug said today? That being humbled was the best thing that ever happened to him. She shook her head, still somewhat amazed. He thanked me for giving him a second chance. Robert took her hand. That's who you are. You see the potential in people, not just their mistakes. Lisa leaned her head on his shoulder. I learned from the best. You took a chance on me when I was just a college student volunteering at your first company event. Best decision I ever made, Robert said simply. As the sky darkened and stars began appearing, they sat in comfortable silence. The Chen name might appear on buildings and technology patents and business news headlines, but their real legacy was much quieter. The lives they touched, the second chances they offered, and the simple respect they showed to everyone they met.